Local 200, presented by Jess Kane, our city attorney.
I'd get the engineering department here to run power plants.
That's my strategy.
Good evening, council. Thanks everybody for being here. This is a statutorily required adversarial process that we're involved in. And that means it's not unlike a lawsuit in which I, as your attorney, am prohibited from contacting directly members of the IAFF, the Bartlesville Fire Dept. I'm not allowed to contact them directly. The only information that they may receive about the city's position in these negotiations is through their union membership, the accuracy of which I question. So I'm happy to see all these folks here, to understand why the city is taking a position on this. It's an unfortunate situation, but this is the process that is laid out for us by the law, and this is how we must proceed. This all could have been avoided through negotiations, but I think as you're about to see, the union has declined to continue such negotiations. Oh my God, it works. Fantastic. The status of the negotiations. The city's latest offer was submitted to the fire union September 26th of 2025. It was the city's third offer submitted in a negotiation process that was initiated by the union in January of this year. In addition to 5% raises, that is a 2.5% merit increase and a 2.5% COLA for all firefighters, which is the same as all other city employees. This offer proposed significant reforms to the fire department's promotional process and the rules governing overtime. Again, a 5% offer raise has been offered by the city. These issues were discussed in detail in my presentation to the council on October 6th, the October 6th meeting, and again by Mr. Bailey in his October 17th, 2025 interview with City Feed. Despite this, and after more than a month, the union has failed to respond to the city's offer or request additional negotiations. The interest arbitration process was initiated by the city on September 29th, but has been delayed due to the ongoing federal government shutdown. The city has proposed to the IAFF that a neutral arbitrator be appointed by agreement of the parties from outside the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service, which would allow the arbitration process to proceed. But the union has failed to respond. In short, the union has failed to respond or continue negotiations in good faith, but has been chosen instead to engage in a no-holds-barred social media blitz and investing in matching t-shirts. Everybody looks pretty sharp this evening. I am reluctant to engage with arguments made on social media, as in my opinion, social media is where civil discourse goes to die. I've already mentioned to Mr. Bailey's interview with City Beat. You can see it here. The QR code was not done by me. That's way above my pay grade. But that will take you to his interview and answer a lot of these questions. I would encourage everyone to read Mr. Bailey's interview as it comprehensively addresses all of the various concerns that have been raised. However, there are a few issues that I would like to address in more detail this evening. As you all will recall, the city has pursued two priorities during the course of these negotiations. One is promotional reform, and two is overtime reform. Little has been said about the city's proposal for promotional reform. I take this as a tacit admission from the union that a promotional system based on merit rather than seniority is a foregone conclusion and long overdue in Bartlesville. The fact that with only one of all the cities in Oklahoma that are larger than Bartlesville in population long ago abandoned seniority-based promotions is proof enough that our process is outdated and out of step with universally accepted best employment practices. The union, through its terminally online surrogates, has argued that the city's proposal would allow for bias and favoritism. But as Mr. Bailey has already pointed out in City Beat, the promotional process that the city has proposed is based on a process that the union already agreed to for the promotion of battalion chiefs. If the process the city proposes is inherently biased, why is it okay for battalion chiefs? Again, the lack of discussion on these issues clearly demonstrate that the city's proposal is merely a long overdue acceptance of best employment practices that are nearly universally accepted. The era of you may not be the best guy, but you're the next guy is coming to an end in Bartlesville. A promotional system based on merit will benefit the public through increased performance by its employees, but it will also benefit the rank and file firefighters who want to work hard and earn promotion faster than senior union bosses that are content to just wait for what's coming to them without putting forward any extra effort. The city's proposal will reward merit. Beginning with this contract, if you're the best guy, you will be the next guy. Most of the online discussions have centered around the issue of compensation, specifically sick leave and its effect on overtime pay. One commenter suggested that I claimed firefighters are overpaid. His word, his punctuation. Challenge each and every one of you to listen again to my presentation to the council on October 6th. You will not find a single place where I contended that firefighters are overpaid. In fact, I specifically stated, and I quote, "We appreciate the contribution of firemen to our community and honor the work that they do. We believe that they should be fairly and competitively compensated for their work." The word overpaid was not used. I encourage you to look for yourself. I think I might got off on my slides here. Yeah, here we are. The same commentator took issue with the fact that I brought to the council's attention that he had been paid over $100,000 by the city in fiscal year 24-25 and never worked a single day. $100,000 in compensation for zero work may indeed qualify as overpayment, and ultimately the voters will get to make that determination. The fact that an individual in the Bartlesville Fire Department received this kind of pay without working a single day has not been contested. It happened. It was accomplished in large part through the use of sick leave. In addition to running his private business and improving his golf game, this individual used his year off on the public's dime to pursue a small claims case against the city of Bartlesville. He lost that case after a judge ruled for the city on all counts. In fact, after losing the case, this individual called in sick and did not work on February 3rd, 2025. Despite being too sick to work for his paycheck in the city of Bartlesville that day, you will recall that this individual was feeling well enough to appear in this room during Citizens to be Heard and demand taxpayer money from this council for a claim the district judge had already denied. The council observed the gentleman in person on February 3rd. You can determine whether he was indeed too sick to work on that day. You don't need me to tell you. You saw with your own eyes, and you can make your own determination, as can the voters who will be called upon to decide if this is how we should run our city. Here are some hourly compensation figures. There were some questions from the audience and citizens to be heard this morning on how this is figured. Generally speaking, we are above average for cities in our universe. That is top 5 up and 5 down in population. The city has highlighted the contribution of the episode I just described and other documented abuses of sick leave to the ballooning of the fire department's overtime budget. The union has argued on social media that the problem of sick leave in Bartlesville Fire Department is driven by injury. In City Beat, Mr. Bailey demonstrated the fallacy of this argument. Our firefighters have used an average of 188 hours of sick leave, nearly a month off, over the past 6 years. Again, 188 hours is the average sick leave taken over the last 6 years by our firemen. This is 85 hours more than the average in our universe. It is 2.5 to 4 times as much as our firefighter counterparts in Owasso, Enid, and Bixby. Common sense dictates that firefighters in Owasso are not less prone to injury or illness performing the same job as firefighters in Bartlesville. I do want to skip ahead This time I got my slides out of order. Well, never mind. I'm the one that's out of order. Sorry, folks. Back to slide number 9. Okay, sorry about that. Further, the city has highlighted the contribution of this episode and other documented abuses of sick leave to the fire department's ballooning budget. The union has argued on social media that the problem of sick leave in Bartlesville Fire Dept is driven by injury. In City Beat, Mr. Bailey demonstrated the fallacy of this argument. And as I indicated, they're using 188 hours of sick leave as opposed to a much smaller amount by the other cities in our universe, and significantly more than communities that are very familiar to us just a little ways down the road. Further analysis of this data, however, illustrates the problem even more conclusively and demonstrates why this is a department-wide problem, not a problem limited to injury-prone individuals. An analysis of the sick leave data demonstrates that Bartlesville firefighters are over 5 times more likely to use personal sick time in a short pay period than in a long pay period. That also shows that they are over 2 times more likely to use family sick time in a long pay period than in a short pay period. Overall, they use 81% of their total sick leave when it will not affect their overtime pay. In order to understand why this data is so significant, you must understand how firefighters' work schedules are structured. Firefighters work on a rotating schedule. In some pay periods, they work 4 days. This is called a short period. In others, they work 5 days. This is a long period. In a long period, firefighters automatically receive 14 hours of overtime. In a short period, they do not. Here you can see 2 pay periods for this month, one on the 7th and one on the 21st. The shifts are indicated by the colors. You can see here that next week, the next pay period, the short pay period, is the blue boxes, because there are only 4 blue boxes. The other 2 shifts, A shift and C shift, have long pay periods in the next 2 weeks. So here's the important part. If a firefighter uses sick leave during a long period, they lose their automatic overtime, and the entire pay period is paid at regular rate. So what happens? This data shows a clear trend. The vast majority of sick leave, that's 81%, is taken during the short periods. Here on this one, again, green is the short pay period. 81% of sick leave is being taken in the green period, not in the red or the blue. Meanwhile, family sick leave, which does not reduce overtime, is mostly taken during long periods. This pattern is not accidental. It reflects the current structure incentivizing when sick leave is used. The result for the city is that during short pay periods, the city must not only pay the individual who called in sick, but must also force back another firefighter, often at double time. And remember, double time is awarded by seniority, so the double time benefits go overwhelmingly to more senior members of the union, not to junior firemen who need the money and can benefit from the experience. This data demonstrates a broad, department-wide pattern of behavior to maximize sick leave for personal gain at the expense of the taxpayer. We have either a remarkable coincidence in which viruses and injuries only manifest to the disadvantage of the city in short pay periods, or a demonstrable pattern of union members pursuing their own self-interest through the loopholes of a flawed contract. I submit that the data shows a deliberate course of action by senior union members to claim sick leave when it's most financially advantageous to them. We can show that the union was aware of this practice and took specific action to preserve the status quo. This is a copy of the union's first offer to the city. In addition to their demand for a 10% across the board raise, double what the rest of the employees got, a 5% automatic raise at promotion, which other employees do not get, and which was still based on seniority alone, and an increase in clothing allowance to more than 3 times the average of our universe. The union also asked for the addition of a safe staffing article. See it there at the top. Safe staffing article would have increased the minimum manning to 18 firefighters per shift. Minimum manning requirements is a clear management right set by the fire chief and has never been a part of the collective bargaining agreement. So why did the union suddenly become concerned with minimum manning in 2025? It's not an issue they had ever negotiated before and has never been a part of this contract. The answer is that the fire chief had proposed to increase the fire department's budget to allow for hiring of 4 additional firefighters to allow him to better manage his overtime budget. The union saw this move by the city towards improved overtime management and sought to amend the contract, right here in this offer, sought to amend the contract to remove the city's ability to manage its overtime budget. The union has since withdrawn this demand, but the episode remains as proof that the union is aware of overtime problem and has specifically sought to preserve its members' ability to abuse overtime to the detriment of the taxpayer. What I've demonstrated to you this evening is not merely that the union's argument that injury is the cause of its outrageous use of overtime is logically incorrect in the face of overtime data from other departments. I've also demonstrated a deliberate course of action to claim sick leave when it's most financially advantageous, 81% of the sick leave during the short pay period, and an attempt by the union to preserve that prerogative for its members. There it is before you. The collective bargaining agreement and its interplay with state and federal laws such as the Fair Labor Standards Act is extremely complex. That complexity is not conducive to explanation in a forum like this, and certainly not on Facebook. I again refer you to Mr. Baylor's interview on October 17th at City Beat for a more in-depth explanation of many of these complex issues. Mr. Bailey and I are available to discuss these matters with you at any time. You know how to get a hold of us. We remain committed to a responsible reform of the collective bargaining agreement to address the promotional and overtime issues we have been discussing and provide for a 5% raise for our firemen. We believe these reforms will benefit the public through increased professional competence in fire service and responsible overtime budgeting, as well as benefit individual firefighters who will be rewarded for excellence through promotion and increased pay. We continue to await the response from the union. I'm happy to answer any questions.